We have to remember that our food is fuel for the body, is actual fuel. And when we start to assimilate it and absorb it, your body's using the nutrients in the food to run everything in your body, to produce hormones, to repair the gut, to run the brain, to get the liver to function, your cardiovascular system. Your body needs the nutrients in the food. So if you're not absorbing it, maybe we're going to be tired, we're going to be getting headaches, we're going to be having skin issues, all from not being able to properly absorb our food. And when we look down at that, it's like, okay, what are the issues that are causing the breakdown, assimilation, and absorption?
Today, guess what we're doing? Talking about my favorite topic. No, not poop, everybody.
I was going to say, we're not talking about poop today, Cris.
Been there, done that, already did it. What we're going to talk about is something that if it's not operating, will not give you a unicorn.
So we are really talking about poop today.
Oh, come on. Poop might come up once or twice, right?
It might come up once or twice.
Today, I want to dive into the biggest factors behind our lovely acne issues, the skin struggles, energy dips. We see a lot with that with clients. What about just overall wellness in general, right? This is all going to be linked back to, drum roll, please. We really need a drum roll, Katie. We're going to talk about the gut.
Let's do it.
Because if you've been hanging with Katie and I for a while, we talk about the gut a lot. Very underestimated. I mean, everybody wants to do a liver cleanse because we understand what the liver does. And yes, I appreciate the liver. The gut is also a hardworking system, right? So a lot of people call it the belly. I'll just have to let that go, right? Or reference their stomach as their gut. Okay, I'll let that go too. However, what it does is way more than just digest our food. So today, let's kick off this episode with breaking down the 3 main issues that could be messing with your gut health.
Cris, before we get into that, you forgot the most important part of the episode today.
What?
We had to mention your ugly sweater.
I know. I'm not taking it off.
We had to.
It's a hard no.
Cris was like, heads up.
It's like, I'm cold.
I'm not taking my sweater off.
This is like my blankie.
She was like, I'm wearing my ugly sweater today. I'm not taking it off. We're going to have to tell them. So if you are watching on YouTube and you're like, Cris, what is on your body right now? You can say, it's
hoodie.
My favorite warm sweater.
It's my gray Sherpa that it probably dates back to before Christ was born. Well, I'll stay cozy. And then we're going to talk about the 3 main gut issues.
Let's do
connected to acne, because that's why we're here, not my sweater, bloating, the sluggishness, symptoms. Like all the things people feel. They're like, I just can't shake these, but I know there's more. Right? So we can go from all the way from, what is it? Bacterial imbalances, stubborn inflammation, poor digestion. So we're really going to unpack what Katie and I like to call as the 3, and not so much the root cause, because we'll get into that later. I'm kind of over that language. Katie's over the language. We're like,
we've been stepping away from the root cause language a little bit, because it's not that there isn't a root cause to your issues. There absolutely is. It's that I think it's just been such a trendy word that it can be a little misleading at times, right? Where it's like, oh no, I have to know the exact root cause in order to clear up my acne, my symptoms, when you don't really. Sure, you need to look at where are these imbalances, what are the labs showing, where are these opportunities that we can work to fix, we can work to repair, we can work to heal. We need to see out the imbalances and the opportunities, and by fixing those, that's what really goes after the root cause. So, it's not like you need to be sitting there like, okay, well, 84% of my issues is from my gut, another 10% is from my liver, and that remaining percent is going to be from my hormones. Like you're never going to get that. So as long as we're able to see where the imbalances are, we can work towards the root cause.
And what's really, really cool is, quote unquote, we may never ever be able to tell you your root cause. However, what we do is we start unlayering the static. We start moving the old, like the wires to bring in the radio station, right? Remember when, no, very few people maybe, but remember when you have to walk up to the TV and turn the TV channel?
Not many people remember that, Cris.
Right? What a tedious. So that's kind of when you're repairing yourself, that's the tedious work that needs to be done, because we've just built a cascade of the everythings, the stressors, which create the inflammation. I think anything that becomes really fancy, I kind of get turned off with, because I'm like, as soon as we glorify something, there's always 1,700 different variations of it. So I know you're suffering with acne. And we definitely do acne. So we get really good at being able to take away the congestion and provide you the tools for your self healing. And what do we call that? We just call those, we look for the opportunities so that you don't have to feel like garbage anymore.
Gut health, another really trendy term in the health and wellness space, right? It's like, oh, I just have poor gut health, poor gut health, poor gut health. I just need to take a probiotic. And it's so much more than that, because your gut health has a ton of different layers to it. There's different things that could be happening, and it's not just about taking a probiotic. Is it a great tool in the gut repairing toolbox? Absolutely. But it shouldn't be like that's the crux that we're holding everything to. So today we wanted to break down the 3 most common gut imbalances that we see for our acne clients.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
I know. Cris and I were like, we don't even need to even think about points today, because this is what we talk in. We don't.
When
we
we
talk
look
about
at
this all day,
3
every day.
gut issues, you know, Katie and I were right off the bat, we throw out some words like SIBO, and we're talking about pathogens, and then we kind of just looked at each other and said, well, what are we doing? We're doing what everybody else does. We don't do that. Here, I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid, and I'm going to give you the telltale sign that something's not right. If we cannot break food down, if we cannot, you know, assimilate it or absorb it, assimilate it, and if we can't use it at the end of the day, guess what happens?
It doesn't matter what you're eating.
You can have all the buttes going in. You can have the medley. You could have the variety.
Organic.
You could have the rotation. Beautiful. Non-pesticide, non-GMO.
Best diet.
You could have
Don't
a
matter.
chef deliver it to you.
A personal chef.
So when you ingest food, you have to start mechanically breaking it down in your mouth. First and foremost, chew for the poo. Then we have to make sure that we have the right enzymes. Then we have to make sure that we have a good quality intestinal cavity so that we can start to absorb it, right? The thing is not every process is going to be lickety split. When you wake up and you have your day plan, something might throw a wrench in it, right? But what we do is we try to get back on track, and your body always tries to get back on track. So breaking down that assimilation and absolutely like absorption, those are what we have to look at when it comes down to the root causes of digestion. So if I want to use a word root cause, I'm going to start saying the root cause of liver congestion, the root cause of spleen, the root cause of, you know, so you can get really good at what you know. That is something that we do a little different. Any step we leave out in digestion, from chewing to elimination, when we're working with a client, ever? Never.
Because I think that's an important thing to remember, is digestion actually begins in your mouth, with you physically breaking the food down with your teeth and with the enzymes in your saliva. This is where digestion starts. It's not chomp, chomp, swallow. My gut's going to break down the chunks of steak I just ate. You need to be, as Cris says, chewing for the poo. Like, you need to be liquefying your food before you swallow it. So when we're looking at digestion, this is one of the biggest things we see off in our clients coming in. And there's a number of different things that can be going. Like Cris said, is it the breaking down of the food, the assimilation, the absorption? Because we have to remember that our food is fuel for the body. It is actual fuel. And when we start to assimilate it and absorb it, your body's using the nutrients in the food to run everything in your body, to produce hormones, to repair the gut, to, you know, run the brain, to get the liver to function, you know, your cardiovascular system. Your body needs the nutrients in the food. So if you're not absorbing it, maybe we're going to be tired, you know, we're going to be getting headaches, we're going to be having skin issues, all from not being able to properly absorb our food. And when we look down at that, it's like, okay, well, what are the issues that are causing the poor breakdown, assimilation, and absorption? This is where we need to be looking at, okay, are we dealing with low stomach acid, which the technical term would be hypochlorhydria? What about our enzyme function? Do we have enough bile being produced? So many different little things need to be taken into consideration when it comes to digestion alone.
And teacher mode for a sec. When the reason why we want you to chew like a paste-like consistency is, I do this when I'm teaching. I do a gastronomic test, and I'll get somebody to get a whole food and a processed food, and I'll time it, and I'll get them to do all the wonderful things. The rule is you cannot swallow it. You must keep it in your mouth the time that I say.
No.
Yeah, true facts.
Who likes doing this?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody loves doing this. Why? Because it builds awareness. So when we have awareness of how we chew, that's one thing. The food manufacturers have gotten to a science that taste alters in processed food within 20 seconds because it's not in your mouth long enough. So they know how to manually manipulate that. But if we're eating fats and we're eating carbohydrates and proteins, here's what you have to do. One, you have to mechanically break down protein like crazy with your teeth. That's the point. Of course, other foods, don't get me wrong, but protein tends to be more of a firm like breakdown. Fair?
100%.
Then we need the food to a paste like consistency because the longer it spends time in your mouth, guess what? We have lingual lipase to break down fats and we have amylase to break down carbohydrates.
These are enzymes, everybody.
Yeah,
that we have to break down.
I was going to say that. Okay, look at you, fancy.
You know that's why I'm here. I'm
yes,
Cris.
to decode. And you haven't had to decode me in a while. I thought it was getting good.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that is vital. And why we're spending so much time to actually break down the gut today is because guess what? Chewing is free. When it goes to the stomach, that's hydrochloric acid and pepsin, for lack of better geek-like explanation. We need that to drive up the fire, not the heat, but like the fire in the stomach so it can break down protein. So already we've had the start at your 3 macronutrients being broken down. Off goes in to the small intestine. Pancreas is going to release lipase, amylase, and protease, and that's going to finish off your macronutrients. Of course, we need bile, and we need a little bit of sodium bicarbonate, either that or we might get an ulcer in places we don't want ulcers. So, and that's perfect, right? Even your body does sodium bicarbonate to reduce the acid. So when people come out very acidic, that's the first thing we do is we start to readjust the acidity in the body because we know how important it is. So then at the very last stage is by the next time we go to the jejunum, and that's where your macros are really going to go and go where they need to go and be absorbed and do the thing. And then we go to the ileum, the last part of the small intestine. And guess what? That's where the last little bit of minerals, it goes into the colon and you're going to get water extraction. Why am I going into such detail? One, because it puts Katie to sleep. No, she already knows that. But I'm going into so that you can see this process is not little. Like there's a bunch of different processes. And if I was teaching you, you would be like, how is she still talking? Like this is just high level. Right? So that's why we need water. We need the extraction. This is when the beneficial bacteria really flourish in that colon, right? For stagnant in our bowels, that's already started by not chewing your food. And I mean, you just woke back up and because you're like, what the heck was going on in there? So just watch that process. It is vital.
And if we break that down even further, let's kind of take a look at when we are dealing with low stomach acid, low enzyme, low bile, how that's really impacting the inflammation in the skin. So if we don't have enough stomach acid and enzyme function and bile, this is what's being utilized to break down your food. And if it is sitting in your gut too long, then it's allowing the bad bacteria and yeast to basically give them a little Mandarin buffet where they get to like gouge and stuff themselves on all of this fermenting food and then allow themselves to overgrow further, which is going to further lead to more pathogens and a dysbiosis in your gut, which is going to again show up on your face due to the inflammation. And if we're not able to break our food down, then it's also not moving quickly enough through your digestive system. The transit time is very, very slow. And if the food starts to sit there and then it gets into your intestinal tract and then it's starting to turn to stool, if it's not leaving the body in a timely fashion, then the toxins, bacteria, yeast, excess hormones like the estrogens that your body's trying to get rid of through the stool don't get excreted quick enough. So they start to reabsorb back into the body, into the bloodstream. Then they go throughout the body, head back to the liver. And now we're dealing with an overwhelmed liver, more inflammation in the body, more toxicity, and increased hormonal imbalances, all because we didn't have proper transit time because higher upstream, we didn't have the proper digestive function.
Yeah, absolutely. And when the body goes off, you always want to look at the first opportunity is what can I do free and what is higher up, the pecking order. So we really look at the pecking order, even when, coaches come in and we do extra trainings and stuff. I mean, you've been on many of those calls, right? And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, great. You have that. Now go back and go back and go back. And I'm like, bingo, right? We have to keep going backwards. Why? Because at some point, there's a starting point to everything. Mm-hmm. Every organ, every system operates one either together. One might be more predominant. One might be less aggressive, like myself. No, just joking. We know that's not true. But these types, and again, flow. So if we want the liver to be working, guess what? The liver just didn't decide to wake up one morning and take a paid vacation day or sick day. It's overrun, it's burdened, and that started even again with what we're inhaling, we're touching, and what we're consuming. Same concept with foodborne illness, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to eat a poisonous anything. We take precaution to do that. We look at best before dates. We smell things, right? Oh, that looks off. Anybody smell milk when it goes off? Mm-hmm. It's sour, it curdles, it changes color. That's an easy. But not all the time can you see pathogens because they're on the inside, just like you can't see foodborne illness. So go with caution. Mm-hmm. Of course, I do love a little thing called SIG-A, but...
Well, I wanted to weave the SIG-A in because we've been talking a little bit more about SIG-A because generally that's something that we talk about as nutritionists on our team, but it hasn't been something that we've really talked too much, except I think we did talk about it in one of the earlier episodes. Mm-hmm. So before we go into SIG-A and weave that all in, I wanted to remind people that bile, which is is going to be helping to digest fats in your system. Mm-hmm. We really want to be having adequate bile flow as well, because if we're not digesting our fats, then it's going to be impacting our hormone production, because your hormones rely on fats for proper production. An example would be things like omega-3s or cholesterol. Yes, cholesterol is actually needed for your hormone production. So if we are not able to break our fats down, it's going to be impacting our hormone production as well. And another thing, it's going to be impacting our energy. If we're not getting the healthy fats broken down, absorbed into our system, then it's going to be impacting our energy metabolism. It's going to be impacting how much we have for storage. So really we have to be looking at, do we have enough stomach acid, enzymes, and bile to be breaking our food down for proper absorption and utilization in the body? I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, inside the CSS, that's a big one. That is huge.
But, and there's such an underrated thing. Like, I don't see many people coming in already like taking a bile salt or an ox bile. And just a side note, if you don't have a gallbladder, you need to be taking ox bile.
Yeah.
Just a heads up.
Yeah. Or if you're vegan, there's other things definitely to do. And so an indication of that is, again, bowels. If we don't have enough bile, we could have yellowish or clay-like looking bowel movements, right? What does the bowels have anything to do with digestion? See how that's way up the pipe? Mm-hmm. On top of that, if you eat a really fatty meal, or if your body can't absorb it, so that's two different things, or sorry, break it down, I should say, absorb it, same thing. It's not the same thing, but like in the same realm. You call that like eye goop or whatever. Eyes can feel really dry or heavy, sticky. And then it's yellow crustation or a little bit of green crustation saying, hey, I'm suffering here. And mucus in the stool. Watch your fat intake. Maybe your fat intake is a little bit higher than one, your body needs, or two, it can even do anything with. Yeah. So all of these, have acid reflux, you have GERD. Yeah. Low stomach acid. Not, we're not talking ulcers here. That's different. Right. So there's a lot of signs and symptoms. So when we get your intake and we start going through things, you're like, what? And all we're thinking is, where in the tube do we need to go first? That's the low hanging fruit. And we don't want to perpetuate runny, mucousy bowel movements if not needed, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because there's lots of digestive support that you can be utilizing. And for our clients, maybe they need an enzyme, maybe they need a specific type of enzymes that has, different ingredients in it. Maybe they need a betaine HCl, maybe they need an oxbal, maybe they need a combination of things. But
Vegan or vegetarians might need a different type of capsule or substance. Yeah, absolutely. There's multi variations.
Yeah, multiple things. And especially something like a betaine HCl, while it can be helpful for stomach acid, that has to be taken properly. And like if you're someone dealing with gastritis or ulcers or different types of issues, there's going to be people that shouldn't be taking it. So this is why you never want to go and just self-supplement because you read something on Google. It's so important to making sure you're getting the right things for your gut.
100%. Yeah.
All right. So the next one, which I find like leaky gut, pathogens are all weaved together by a little SIG-A action.
They are, right?
Aren't they? Yeah. So we'll kind of go back and forth. I just want to make it really clear that the other two big gut issues we see is leaky gut and pathogens. And we'll probably talk about these intermingled.
Yeah.
Is that a word? Intermingled? It is today.
Yeah. Mixed and weaved, whatever.
Mixed and weaved,
hey,
all together.
I have my comfy sweater on. At this point, you can say whatever. I'm pretty kosher.
Whatever. I was just going to tell them what SIG-A is.
Yeah,
so
ahead.
It stands for secretory IgA. And it's a type of antibody that's actually found in your gut's first line of defense. It's kind of like your gut's personal bodyguard. Mm-hmm. And it hangs out in your mucosal lining of your digestive tract. And its job is to neutralize pathogens like bacteria, virus, and yeast before they can, cause a little bit of trouble in the body. They're also there to prevent the harmful substances from entering into your bloodstream. And it also helps to maintain a balanced gut microbiome by protecting that good bacteria and keeping the bad ones in check. So it really plays a key role in your immune system.
Yeah. Oh, huge on immune regulation, right? It also hangs out just not in the gut, respiratory, mouth, tears, saliva, and think about everything we've just talked about.
Anything mucosal.
Think about also when you go outside and say, out comes the flowers in the spring and achoo, in the grass. So what it gets attacked there is the respiratory system. We might get some tears or, we start coughing because we have too much saliva. Always try and make connections because that mucosal protection or the SIG-A, like Katie was saying, it's primarily found in the mucus that we really need to line the gut. And of course, the other entry points, right? And just to really kind of nail this in again and again and again, because you did an overview, just that mucosal protection alone, its job is to trap invaders. So anything harmful. So that's going to be bacteria and viruses and toxins, right? So even though you hear SIBO or you hear pathogens, we're like, okay, again, that's what we know. Let's go back. And we need to stop them from attacking your mucosal surfaces that it's like you said, it's like guards or something.
Yeah, it's a bodyguard.
Yeah. So it's
like the bouncer at the club.
Yeah, it's like Velcro for germs. You know what I mean? It's like a little
Velcro
magnet
for germs.
Yeah, it is. And it just grabs them. And then they can't go in and start digging for more problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And when we see things like, say, a low SIG-A, this can be, we're dealing with some chronic stress. Do we have long-term gut issues? Do we have poor diet? Are we getting sick a lot? Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of the spectrum, if we're dealing with, say, high SIG-A, this can happen when our immune system's really in overdrive. Like, do we have an active infection? Is there an autoimmune flare happening? And if you're wondering, how do I check for my SIG-A? You can check for your SIG-A levels and things like a GI map. So for our clients that come into the Clear Skin solution and elect to upgrade to a GI map, we're able to see those SIG-A levels really clearly as one of those markers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The thing is as soon as we get that low SIG-A, what's going to happen? Again, vulnerable. That's when we're going to get those gut infections. So if you come in with a gut infection or you've had raging yeast infections or UTIs, again, what's another fancy word is dysbiosis, right?
Dysbiosis. It's popular.
It's very popular.
Imbalance.
It's imbalance. Dysbiosis of anything, I think I used it the other day. Somebody said, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Oh, I just feel a total dysbiosis today."
Just a complete imbalance in my body today.
That really shuts people up quick.
And they're like, oh, okay, you lunatic.
They're just like done. However, think about all of those, that low SIG-A, because really, as you're coming in with that history that we're going over, those are the acne triggers. Those are going to perpetuate the acne. Those are going to perpetuate the hormone imbalance and the inflammation as a whole, right? So it's looking for the stressors. What about chronic stress? Heck yes, for sure.
Absolutely. And while we're on the SIG-A, before we move into more like leaky gut and pathogens, another thing we do see, pretty often for clients is histamine issues. And low SIG-A and histamine issues can really be quite connected, right? Because when they're both playing a role in gut health, immunity, inflammation, these imbalances can lead to a ton of different symptoms.
Yeah.
So, that's why if we're dealing with, say, like a low SIG-A, it's going to be directly impacting our histamine as well.
Yeah, it's going to be like an overload. So if we're at, or if SIG-A is there as that barrier, the protection, and when it goes low, as an example, and that gut lining becomes more permeable, that leaky gut. See, the flash words are coming out now for everybody. Like
all connected.
We're trying to bring it up for you. So then the substances go into the bloodstream. They trigger the immune response. That's going to release the histamine. The histamine is going to do the inflammatory control, which we want. Often I see histamine and they're like, go take a DAO, and which is the enzyme to help break it down. And sometimes I'm like, please don't do that, because we haven't quite found the trigger. If we give you the enzyme, sometimes it's warranted, don't get me wrong. But if I have somebody that is going through a histamine, and I know histamine well, I have an autoimmune. If you have an autoimmune, here's the bubble popping. Ready? There's a histamine issue.
Here she goes.
There's a secretory idea. There, we got issues. That's all I got to say. We got issues. At the end of the day, again, here's the thing. We get more dysbiosis, right? More of the pathogenic bacteria. They just release. They don't like to die. They eat, they release. They poop, they release. They do all this stuff. It releases. Histamine comes out. And then what? Then the body's on a heightened immune system response. Everyone's at war. It's like, honestly, it's like a good old Easter dinner.
I love an Easter dinner.
A family Easter dinner. All of a sudden someone says the wrong thing, and next thing you know, that is histamine. Histamine's like, but histamine is there to help you. So when you go outside and you have pollen or you have grass, and I've seen it many, many times. Oh my gosh, you have too. People reverse their grass and their pollen allergies by cleaning up the barrier, by reducing the histamine overload, by going through the life little paths. Is it easier than Allegra? No.
We have a whole episode on histamine, so you can go almost into that in the previous one, because we can digress onto the histamine very easily here.
No, we don't. Just know that every time histamine comes out, it is specific on an immune response. And the immune response, we need some inflammation to say, hey, something's wrong. How long are you carrying the inflammation? That's what we have to start looking at, right?
All right. So now let's go into leaky gut, and then we'll do pathogens. Okay. So leaky gut, it's a slang term for intestinal permeability. Essentially, your gut lining has become leaky. That's how it gets its name. Where in your gut, there is a bunch of bunch of little cell junctions all snuggled up, snug as a bug in a rug together. And when these guys start to get irritated from inflammatory foods, alcohol, chemicals, medications, anything going in your mouth, when it starts to get irritated, these tight cell junctions start to pull apart, and they allow for undigested food particles, toxins, bacteria, things that aren't supposed to be in your bloodstream get into your bloodstream. Yep. This has the body being like, whoa, you're not supposed to be here. And this is where we're going to get an immune response. We're going to have a flag on the play. And when this occurs, this is going to be increasing inflammation in the body. Maybe you're seeing food intolerances pop up. And maybe you're also seeing acne arise, because it's that inflammation that's going systemically throughout the body.
If we have long-term stress, that increases cortisol. It's going to weaken the gut lining and suppress my buddy SIG-A.
Chronic stress, everybody.
And then we can't produce the CA, and we just learned why. Okay, other things.
Medications. They're going to be, I'm sorry to be the bubble popper, but medications really, really impact leaky gut, especially antibiotics.
And NSAIDs.
And NSAIDs. Oh my goodness, NSAIDs. And NSAIDs are the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, like your ibuprofen, like your Advil, your Motrin, all of those, inflammatory NSAIDs is the word I'm looking for, that we're taking for pain, for period pain, for headaches, they're just destroying your gut lining.
Yeah, I always say I'm evil like that. Ha 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 ha. I like clients to go through the pain, not excruciating. However, why? Because then they start to become very aware. So this is why I don't like to just throw things in like a Band-Aid to say, okay, this is okay. Your big gash in there that won't stop bleeding. I'm just going to put this Band-Aid on. It's okay, right? Because NSAIDs, they're going to go and damage the gut mucosa. And we don't like that.
Some other things like poor diet, so processed foods, gluten, conventional dairy, excess alcohol, all of these are going to be seed oils, processed sugar, those refined carbohydrates. All of these things are actually irritating the gut lining, contributing to leaky gut, and then thus inflammation, and then thus acne.
Yeah. Of course, I'm going to pick infections. So
that's a good one.
I know, right? Again, now watch where this starts to come up. So infections like Candida, like SIBO, like H. pylori, like parasites, that's going to perpetuate inflammation. It's going to compromise the intestinal barrier. It's going to create that dysbiosis and the imbalance in the gut bacteria. Because listen, I don't know about you, but when all my kids start going at it, I go to a different room.
Well, you got to put those noise canceling headphones on and just walk away.
Yeah, because I'm not about to go take off my comfort sweater, and I'm not about to go put on black and white stripes so that I can referee it. Because by the time leaky gut happens, I've done that to know it's not worth it anymore. So instead, we got to look at those tight junctions, make sure they're nice and closed. And that even starts way even higher. We got to chew our food so that our enzymes don't get taxed, our body doesn't get taxed.
Because those things like those pathogens, like they're like having good bacteria in your gut helps play a role in a healthy intestinal barrier. But if we have an overgrowth of the Candida, the SIBO, the H. pylori, the parasites, whatever it's going to be, it's going to increase inflammation and further lead to leaky gut as well. And we're going to go more into pathogens, but we just kind of want to weave this all through. And Cris, what about the environmental toxins, like the pesticides, the herbicides, the heavy metals, the food additives?
GMOs. Emulsifiers, sulfites, nitrates, BHT. What else do we got?
Cris, you're scaring everybody.
High fructose corn syrup. And I put that in. Even when I'm teaching, I put that in as a toxin exposure.
100%. The fact that high fructose corn syrup is still allowed is like that, and food dyes really grind my gears.
You captured like low stomach acid, and we talked about the inflammation, because these are things. So chronic stress, chronic inflammation, because we know the pathway we like to use.
And low stomach acid can lead to leaky gut, because if we don't have enough stomach acid to be fighting off of, and remember, another thing about low stomach acid is our stomach acid helps to fight bad bacteria and yeast as well, helps keep that balance of bacteria in check. So if it's low, it again allows for the overgrowth of the pathogens, which contributes to leaky gut as well. So you can see how these three things are also interconnected.
And I think probably the only other one we didn't mention was food intolerances. Or did you grab that one?
Yeah. So food intolerances, they are a symptom of leaky gut, because your body doesn't inherently have all of these, food intolerances and sensitivities. If we are eating these, really inflammatory foods that are irritating the gut lining, pulling it apart, causing leaky gut, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, I can't eat mandarin oranges because I have a food intolerance. I can't eat walnuts, and I can't eat egg whites, and I can't eat whatever that list of food is. A food intolerance is a symptom of leaky gut alongside acne.
Cool fact, totally unrelated. if people are intolerant to oranges, it doesn't necessarily mean mandarins, and more people are tolerant to mandarin oranges than they are to navel. And I'm wondering, for the listeners, if it's because we inject red dyes into them because we demand a certain color, a certain look of it. And I'm wondering if we're responding more to the dyes and the chemical than anything else. But that's just see what happens when you come into the world of Cris.
You just ruined everybody's day. They're like, what do you mean my oranges are getting injected with food dye? What do you mean?
I just go have a mandarin orange, and it's, you know, just wait for Christmas season and we're good.
We're good. And we already talked about infections, but I do want to bring up H. pylori, because can we just say, like, H. pylori
is a beast?
He is a beast. He is at the root of all evil, I really feel. H. pylori, really, really common, right? This is an infection that can really go unnoticed, but wreaks havoc in the body.
Massive.
It's creating a lot of stress. It is impacting the body's ability to produce produce stomach acid. So you can see how all of these things are really starting to weave together, because the H. pylori is going to inflame and weaken your gut lining. Voila, here we go. So now let's kind of dig into the pathogen situation. But let's talk about the most common imbalances. Like, we see a lot of candida.
Mm-hmm.
We do see some SIBO. We do see some parasites. Of course, there can be a dysbiosis in any type of bacteria in your gut. Maybe you have too much staph. Maybe you have too much strep. You know, there's different imbalances you can have. But the big ones we do see, I would say candida would be the first one.
Yeah. And if we see, you're not going to see species unless you get like a GI map, right? That's going to really catalog everything. We're going to see the Klebsiella, like all of these different things for the overgrowth. But candida is really a low-hanging, easy fruit for us, right? And where we might not know the specific species, the thing is they do different things in the body and they react differently, right? There's certain strains that really feed off of like carbohydrates. There's certain strains that really, if you don't have enough bile, they're like, yeah, I love it. So again, we have all these different pathogens, and they're supposed to be in the large intestine where the poop is kind of hanging out, not up in the small intestinal cavity. That's when we get into the SIBO. That's when we get into the issue. So now we already know we have a compromised lower digestive system, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, because like we can have the candida, we can have the SIBO. H. pylori is another type of pathogen that's hanging out in the body. Like Cris said, is for our clients that really want to be seeing this types of species and the types of, you know, things happening in their gut, that's where a GI map would be really, really helpful. Because it's going to be looking at, you know, is there some candida? Is there SIBO dominant strains of bacteria? Is there the H. pylori?
Yeah.
But could there be other overgrowth of opportunist bacteria, like a citrobacter, right? It's not just the candida.
You can be asymptomatic, by the way, and be riddled.
Yeah. Fun fact. If people are like, oh no, like I don't have digestive issues. I don't have bloat or diarrhea or constipation. You don't need it. Because guess what? Acne is a symptom of poor gut health.
Yeah. And I hope people really see the dynamic of why we're like, gut is 100% in interplay. It's a massive. If your immune system, 70, 80%, whatever the publications are at now, 2 years ago it was 60, now it's 70, maybe it's 80, right? However, if your immune system sits in there and you have allergies, I want you to start thinking, why do I have allergies? What's the interconnection into the body system? And if it's too much, then work with somebody that really knows this. Because when you have the opportunity to calm down the immune system, your body doesn't need to be in constant stress. That naturally reduces inflammation. And what happens to most of the signs and symptoms?
Bye-bye.
I will tell you, acne is the most stubborn symptom.
The most stubborn.
And SIBO.
Out of all symptoms.
I'll give you
SIBO. Oh
SIBO.
my goodness, SIBO. SIBO is I'm trying not to swear, but he's a stubborn one. That and H. pylori.
Yeah, so H. pylori, because H. pylori can live in high acidity. So that hydrochloric acid could just be in abundance, and it can live in low acidity. So it knows how to climatize. Just like any virus on this earth, any virus, let me be very, very clear, in life, it naturally knows how to morph. Just like you have life stages, it has life stages. And it morphs, it redevelops, and it goes. All of our pathogenic behaviors and the offsets and the die-off, when you start killing them, the endotoxins, you feel like garbage. This is when
you
people
will feel like
stop,
garbage,
right?
Yeah. And I think I'm glad you brought that up, right? Is a lot of people, if you are dealing with gut imbalances, it's not a fun experience to go through a gut microbiome. Killing off H. pylori, killing off candida, killing off SIBO, they're going to cause some symptoms. We can almost guarantee it. It's called a Herx reaction. If you want to go and listen to our podcast on a Herx reaction, I'm going to link it in the show notes because it's one of the most important things you can know about when it comes especially to gut microbiome rebalancing. You're probably going to see a flare of new symptoms, old symptoms, or current symptoms. So maybe your skin flares, maybe all of a sudden your normal bowel movements turn to liquidy diarrhea. Maybe you're having intestinal cramping. Maybe you're having headaches. Maybe you're having, energy. Maybe you're having rashes. Whatever those symptoms may be, it's not necessarily that you're doing something wrong. It's that the imbalances you're going after are angry and they're fighting back.
If you have made it all the way into these symptoms and have acne, and possibly you're like, oh, maybe that is a leaky gut thing. Oh, maybe I do have SIBO. Oh, maybe I do have pathogen. Oh my gosh, I absolutely did have yeast infections. Or you're like, yeah, none of that resonates. Either way, if you have acne, you have oxidative stress somewhere. And the oxidative stress is going to perpetuate more free radicals. And that's the anarchy. And then your body is now fighting them. See, so no matter what we do, and we think we know because we don't have this symptom and we don't have this symptom, you need to know how to get into the body. And you can probably agree. You can let us know. When you first started practicing, was it like balls to the walls? Like we got to do it. You got to do it. You just did. And now we've learned what? We got to go grab the low hanging fruit. We have to reduce the inflammation because acne is and I guarantee you everybody that is listening to this is going to resonate with this. Acne is a different beast.
Different beast. Oh my goodness.
So you may have the similar symptoms of somebody that does not have acne, and your healing time with acne may be a total different path. So does it sound wonderful? No. But is there opportunity? 1000%.
And really at the bottom, of all of this is gut issues equal poor nutrient absorption, equal inflammation, which is going to be equaling acne, right? Because we're having poor detoxification, we're getting more inflammation. It's going to be impacting our hormones because, again, if you have a gut imbalance, your gut actually helps to produce, metabolize, regulate a lot of your hormones. So if your gut's struggling, your hormones are going to be imbalanced. And this is why so many women fail at balancing the hormones correctly because they don't go after their gut issues and fix the imbalances there. So they're like, oh, well, I'm taking this hormone balancing supplement and my symptoms seem to, go away. Well, what happens when you stop taking that supplement? Do your symptoms come back? They're like, yeah, no, it all comes back. Well, that's
with
because you didn't, with a vengeance. And it's because you didn't go after the gut issues which were leading to additional hormonal imbalances.
Yeah, because it's not connected. It's not gone into detail, right? So remember this. If you have low energy, are you eating enough? Your macronutrients, your carbohydrates, your proteins, your fats. If you have fatigue and energy are not the same thing. If you have fatigue, do you have the minerals or the absorption or the mechanisms in play so that you can even get the value out of your micronutrients? That's how I like to look at it. So I really work a lot with clients on, is this energy or is this fatigue?
Good. I love that. Now, I want to kind of connect all the dots for them, and then we can talk about really how you have to go after this approach. The inflammatory compounds and toxins are leaking into the bloodstream, which is creating chronic inflammation, which is triggering our acne. Then we got gut pathogens like Candida, H. pylori, the harmful different bacteria. This is producing stress on the immune system and increasing inflammation.
Yep.
Then, there was further dysbiosis. So we have that imbalanced microbiome. It's disrupting hormones, detoxification pathways, and even sebum production, sebum regulation, I should say. And again, poor detoxification. So if everything's getting backed up, the skin's going to take the hit, which is leading to clogged pores and breakouts. And then if we're also dealing with a lot of nutrient deficiencies, this is just adding fuel to the fire, worsening inflammation, proper hormone production, and skin repair as well. So this is how you kind of bring all of that together. Okay, so now people are like, well, now you told us everything that's wrong. How do we fix it? So repairing gut issues is, I will say, you need to work with a practitioner. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because here's the thing. How are we going to know what you're dealing with if we aren't doing any functional testing? And then once we get the functional testing, we're like, okay, well, what needs to be focused on? And if you're like, well, Katie, like, just tell me, like, do I have to take a probiotic? Do I have to do, take this one thing and eat this one? No, because it depends on what's happening. Because person A that's dealing with H. pylori and low stomach acid is going to need a completely different protocol from somebody who has, say, candida and bile issues. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach where it's these 4 supplements, these specific types of foods. Every single one of these individual things we talked about has a different way of eating, a different supplementation, a different lifestyle habit, different triggers that all then need to be melded together to create the right recommendations for you, which is not an answer you wanted to hear. I totally get that. Let's talk about some general things that you can do to kind of set the foundation for any of these, right, Cris? Like, we can be chewing our food really well.
100%.
To a paste-like consistency. Yes. What else? I took that one. What one do you want to do?
Well, we call it chew for the poo because that's way too many words, right? We need to hydrate. See how there's some redundancy in what we say, right? Why do we have to hydrate? Because we need to get the toxins out. It's part of the filtration. It's part of the cleansing process. It's part of the extraction process in the lower intestinal cavity, where 2/3 of your water gets extracted so that you can have a unicorn poo.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So chew your food well. Make sure we're staying hydrated. You hear us say this pretty much every episode. Eat in a relaxed setting. What about that?
I really like.
Because if we are eating in a stressful situation, we're arguing with somebody, we're watching something stressful on TV,
or even scrolling.
Some type of scrolling, we're in that fight or flight response, eating on the go, we're stressed, whatever it may be. This actually shuts down our digestive process, and we don't produce hydrochloric acid because we're supposed to be running from a bear, and we don't need to be digesting food when we're running for our life. And the body doesn't know the difference. So if we're not eating in a relaxed setting, it's going to be impacting our body's ability to break the food down and digest it.
Yeah. Quality of foods are going to matter, right? So really getting on Katie's blog, I'm not kidding. She's got a gazillion recipes on there. And it is anti-inflammatory, right? If you're like, oh, why is there molasses? Or why is there? Because that's the different stages. It's not what we do once in a while. It's what we do like every day that is going to be the compounding issue. First and foremost, though, I'm going to say start evaluating what you're doing now before you just start implementing everything, because you'll get in an exhausted state. It's going to increase the stress, increase the inflammation. You have a headache, you're grabbing an Advil. And so you see how that all goes again?
Mm-hmm. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah. I would say be kind to yourself as well as you're learning. This is a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
This is
absolutely,
we've had clients join us and they're like, I've been following you guys for 3 years. And I tried everything and you have so much information, but it comes at me so fast. I don't know what to do with it. And I said, okay, because we refine the system and how to deliver it to you inside the programs is a little bit different. Right. So I appreciate that. And that just popped up because I just met with somebody this week and I was like, that's okay. You're here. Right?
Like, you made it. You found your way eventually.
You made it. This is ground zero. Let's start from here. Everything you did up to this point was the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to find some more low-hanging fruit and we're going to go forward. Yeah.
I love it.
Your journey is your journey. It's nobody else's journey. So it has to be on your timelines. If you notice though, that you're listening again in 6 months and you're listening again in 6 months and there's no improvement, then nobody's doing anything about the journey. Right? So be careful, because your mindset's going to alter, and that's going to create it's going to cascade right into this gut issue again. This we can almost guarantee.
Call the gut brain skin axis.
Yeah, it's like, it's a little thing that we didn't even make that up. Let's just say we did.
We didn't even make that phrase up, but it's the health of your gut, your brain, and your skin all impact each other. They're like, remember, your body is not separate pieces that are working in different departments and never speak to each other. They all work in an open office. Open office is where they're working. They're all communicating. They're helping each other function.
And
they're
it's
doing
a call
jobs
center
for each other.
to boot.
It's a call center.
It's a call center to boot, right? Like I'm going to just hands down, I could not work in that environment. But
no, I couldn't. It's too
so I thank my body every day for doing the things I physically would not be able to do.
All right, everybody. Another episode here at the Clear Skin Chronicles. Go back, listen to it again, check the show notes. As always, we'll see you next week on the Clear Skin Chronicles.